Once upon a time, ebaumsworld.com was one of the most popular websites to go to when you felt like having a laugh. The site was full of hilarious videos, images, audio recordings, and more. But when's the last time you heard somebody mention ebaumsworld? It's like it's just been forgotten about. I mean, what happened? If you go to ebaumsworld.com today, you'll see this. But trust me, this isn't ebaumsworld. I mean, yeah, this is what it is now, but this hardly resembles the ebaumsworld that so many of us know and love. So what happened? Well, before we get into that, let's get some context first. ebaumsworld is a website that first went online all the way back in 2001. The site had a lot of different types of content on it, but the overall theme of the site was humor. From at least as early as 2002 all the way up until sometime in 2004, the first thing you'd see upon going to ebaumsworld.com was a landing page with a quote reading, "This website is not your average joke site. This site is so funny you won't be able to sleep at night." And I think that sums up the theme of the site quite well. You could definitely call it a joke site, but ebaumsworld really was so much more than that. I can't stress enough just how popular ebaumsworld was back in its heyday. Among other things, ebaumsworld was the place online to find funny videos, and it seemed like all the kids at my middle school knew about it. Okay, well, maybe there were some other popular websites at the time hosting funny videos, and doing so in a less scummy way, but, well, we'll get into all that later. Like many popular websites of its time, when you look at it from a modern day perspective, ebaumsworld seems to lack focus. I mean, look at all the different pages on this site. You've got text, images, office humor, animations, soundboards, prank calls, audio, video, sports, games, illusions, magic, and special, whatever the heck that is. The snapshot we're looking at right now is from 2003, by the way. These categories did change somewhat over time, but even up to 2007, which is when the website was purchased from the original owner, most of the same categories were there. I've already mentioned that the video section was massively popular, but some of the other pages were pretty dang popular as well. The soundboard section is one in particular I remember having a lot of fun with. If you don't know what a soundboard is, well, it's basically just a flash application with a bunch of buttons you can press to play different sound bites from a certain celebrity. For example, the Arnold Schwarzenegger soundboard had buttons you could press to hear Arnold saying, "I'll be back," or "Hasta la vista, baby," among other things. Soundboards like this were mostly used for the purpose of making prank phone calls, and ebaumsworld hosted audio for quite a few of these sometimes hilarious prank calls on its prank calls page. ebaumsworld also had a fairly active forum. It wasn't the most popular forum on the web, but it definitely had a steady user base and wasn't a bad place to hang out from time to time. Although ebaumsworld was hugely popular, the site was also rife with controversy. ebaumsworld was created by a guy named Eric Bauman, get it? E-Baum, along with his father Neil. I think Neil's involvement was actually just on the business side of things, but the details aren't 100% clear. Anyways, the reasons I mention Eric Bauman are twofold. For one, he's obviously the founder and namesake of the site, so it would be odd to neglect even mentioning him at all. And secondly, Eric Bauman is known for his shady business dealings over the years that almost definitely played a hand in the eventual downfall of the website. The first problems came in 2003, or perhaps even earlier, the details are kind of fuzzy, when Corona contacted Eric Bauman concerning a GIF of a dancing beer bottle that featured Corona's logo. By the way, yes, I say GIF, not GIF. You can pronounce it as GIF if you want, that's up to you. You're wrong, but you're free to do as you please. Anyways, there was never any legal action taken due to the Corona incident, and an agreement was reached with the result that the GIF was not removed from the site. It isn't known what the agreement was exactly, but I'd guess maybe Ebaum agreed to put some Corona ads on the website. I mean, EbaumsWorld was covered in ads. Just look at it.
Headshot.
At around the same time he was contacted by Corona, Ebaum was also contacted by legal representation for Mr. Rogers. EbaumsWorld had some perverted sounding but out of context audio clips from Mr. Rogers' show hosted on the site. This time, Bauman actually agreed to remove the offending content, stating that they were funny, but I decided that they were too mean-spirited, and I took them down. Perhaps the first major threat that EbaumsWorld faced occurred in 2003 when Viacom threatened to take legal action against the Baumans for copyright infringement. Specifically, Viacom took issue with the soundboards hosted on EbaumsWorld that featured audio clips from Dr. Phil, Judge Judy, Tim Meadows, and Howard Stern. Funny enough, what originally put EbaumsWorld on Viacom's radar was when somebody prank called Howard Stern on air using the Howard Stern soundboard. Against all odds, Ebaums actually came out on top in this whole ordeal. The threats from Viacom never actually materialized into anything more than a threat, and none of the soundboards in question were removed from the site. The next major controversy occurred in January of 2006 when EbaumsWorld hosted a GIF that originally came from a ytmnd titled "Lindsay Lohan Doesn't Change Facial Expressions." If you don't know about ytmnd, well, it stands for "You're the Man Now, Dog," and there was a website called ytmnd.com where users could create their own ytmnds. A ytmnd was basically just a web page featuring looping audio with a GIF or even a still image tiled across the page, sometimes with accompanying text. The name comes from the original ytmnd, which featured a tiled image of Sean Connery along with a looping audio clip of the legendary actor saying,
"You're the man now, dog."
Yeah, it's pretty weird, but ytmnd.com was super popular back in the day. Anyways, EbaumsWorld posted this Lindsay Lohan GIF with an EbaumsWorld watermark added to it. The creator of the animation contacted EbaumsWorld to request the GIF be removed, but he received no response. Members of the ytmnd community then took matters into their own hands by launching a DDoS attack on EbaumsWorld. They also had mass amounts of empty boxes delivered to the ebaumsworld.com offices. This was a popular prank at the time. A company called DHL would send free boxes to anyone that requested them, and they made no attempts at all to verify that the address in the request actually belonged to the person requesting the delivery. These actions kicked off an eternal feud between the ytmnd forums and the users of the EbaumsWorld forums, who over the years would occasionally attempt to DDoS each other. This incident also seemed to tarnish the reputation of EbaumsWorld across the internet as a whole, as in the following months, similar accusations of content theft were levied against EbaumsWorld from the users of the SomethingAwful.com forums and Albino Black Sheep. Actually, this incident may have just been the straw that broke the camel's back, as EbaumsWorld had been accused of using other people's content without permission before, but this incident in particular really got people buzzing all across the internet about what a piece of shit Eric Bauman must be. In June of 2006, so about 6 months after the whole ytmnd Lindsay Lohan debacle, Stephen Lerner of albinoblacksheep.com, along with Alan Becker, the creator of a popular Flash animation called Animator vs. Animation, threatened legal action against EbaumsWorld for posting the Animator vs. Animation cartoon without permission. Apparently, the original animation had included the text hosted on albinoblacksheep.com, but this text had been removed from the version posted on EbaumsWorld. At some point during this incident, a statement from Alan Becker was submitted to EbaumsWorld in which he claimed that he actually had given Bauman permission to post his animation. I wasn't able to find this statement anywhere, so I don't know exactly what it said, but nevertheless, Alan Becker actually recanted the statement soon after with a new statement posted to albinoblacksheep.com. This statement reads, "Hello, I am the author of Animator vs. Animation. I feel so ashamed, and the world is ashamed of me. I fell into ebaum's trap. I gave them fuel to fight back. With their constant persuasion and offers for money, they made me write a quote saying that everything was fine. Of course everything was fine for me, because I had the money they had given me. What can you expect? I was dead poor before. I have no experience with business. The quote says they contacted me before they posted my animation on their website. However, I did not give them permission to put it on." Apparently what had happened was that Eric Bauman paid Becker $250 to write a statement claiming that he had given EbaumsWorld permission to post the animation. Becker was just a teenager at the time, so $250 probably seemed like a whole lot of cash. Regardless, he obviously regretted his decision and he did attempt to return the money. Soon after Becker's apology to the albinoblacksheep.com community, EbaumsWorld did remove the animation. Fortunately, Alan Becker seems to be doing pretty well for himself these days. He has a YouTube channel with 20 million subscribers, and the original Animator vs. Animation cartoon currently has over 75 million views. It is a really cool animation, so you should definitely check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. In the aftermath of the ytmnd and Animator vs. Animation ordeals, it does seem like EbaumsWorld made an effort to avoid posting unauthorized content. At some time in 2006, they updated their content submission process to include an agreement requiring content creators to hand over all rights to their content to EbaumsWorld in exchange for some amount of money. Speaking of money, although his reputation online was as low as it could possibly be, these controversies didn't seem to have much effect on Eric Bauman's monetary gains. In August of 2007, EbaumsWorld was purchased by the ZVUE Corporation, also known as Handheld Entertainment, for $17.5 million.
Wow.
Bauman did continue to operate EbaumsWorld along with his staff up until January of 2009, when he and his entire staff were laid off by ZVUE. Eric Bauman was not happy about this. On January 31st of 2009, Bauman made a blog post on blog.ebaumnation.com smack-talking ZVUE. In this blog post, he also announced plans for a new website, ebaum.tv. It looks like this website did exist for some amount of time, but this site was very short-lived, and personally, I'd never even heard of it until I started researching for this video. It's safe to say that ebaum.tv never really got off the ground. By this point, Eric Bauman has pretty much faded into obscurity. He's obviously been keeping a low profile since the failed launch of ebaum.tv, because there really isn't much more information about him to be found online after that point. I mean, he made a fortune off of EbaumsWorld. He's probably relaxing on some private island somewhere, drinking margaritas and working on his tan. EbaumsWorld.com, on the other hand, does still exist even up to this day. It went through several not-so-drastic redesigns over the years since terminating the original EbaumsWorld staff, but it wasn't until sometime around 2013 that the site was redesigned to an extent that it no longer resembles the original EbaumsWorld much at all. Although even today it still has some of the classic sections like jokes, animations, and soundboards. Oh. Well, I guess most of the soundboards don't actually work. Anyways, as of 2016, EbaumsWorld is owned by Literally Media, which is the same company that owns Know Your Meme and Cracked.com. They do continue to update the site frequently, and they do seem to have some active users that comment on posts, so maybe they are still turning a profit. I don't know. And check this out. EbaumsWorld has an official YouTube channel. The first upload was in May of 2020, and there are a few more uploads from around that time, but then they took a pretty long break until May of 2022 when they started to upload a bit more frequently. Most of the videos on the channel seem to be interviews with people that are kinda sorta but not really even famous, and the most viewed video on the channel only has about 6,000 views, and the channel itself has less than 400 subscribers. Yikes. I mean, I guess I'm not really one to talk, but ebaumsWorld was like a household name back in the day, and viral videos was their bread and butter, so it is a bit surprising to see just how unpopular their YouTube channel is. But you know, on second thought, I guess it does make sense. ebaumsWorld was a hugely popular website, but most, heck, maybe all, of the content on the website was either submitted by users or in some cases just straight up stolen without permission. This was how ebaumsWorld was able to thrive, by collecting all of the funniest content from around the web and putting it all on one site. With its current YouTube channel, the owners of ebaumsWorld are attempting to create their own content. Creating engaging content is a whole lot harder than finding engaging content that someone else created. I mean, you can't blame them for trying, but it really looks like ebaumsWorld is on its last leg. Some may even go so far as to say that ebaumsWorld is already dead at this point. Can't say I disagree.